On the bus, a group of thugs was harassing a young woman, but no one stepped in. A man wearing sunglasses boarded the bus, followed by a pregnant woman. He offered her his seat, but just moments later, one of the thugs brazenly took it. Though clearly angry, the man remained calm and quietly handed his sunglasses to the woman. The man swiftly took down the thugs, disarmed them, and threw their knife out the window. His name was Ray Quick, a former veteran who had served as an explosives expert for the CIA. Now, he lived in seclusion and worked as a freelancer. His current life stemmed from a serious accident many years ago. In 1984, holding the rank of captain, Ray Quick was assigned alongside Colonel Ned Trent to carry out a high-risk assassination mission in South America. Their target was a powerful drug lord, and the operation called for precision. They planned to blow up a bridge. Ray, careful and meticulous, carefully placed the explosives beneath the bridge. Meanwhile, Trent, impatient and reckless, handled the timer setup and prepared for the detonation. The countdown began. As the target vehicle entered the kill zone, Ray raised his binoculars and froze. Inside the car, sitting next to the drug lord, was a young girl, clearly innocent. This intelligence failure could lead to disaster. Panicked, Ray immediately called to abort the mission, but Trent flatly refused. With a cold demeanor, he prioritized completing the mission, ignoring the fact that a child was in the car. He rushed toward the bridge, trying to manually disable the explosives, but the 60-second countdown ended far too quickly. Just as Ray made his final move, a massive explosion tore through the bridge. In the brief moment before it happened, he managed to lock eyes with the girl in the car. A giant fireball erupted, engulfing everything in its path. Ray, powerless to stop it, dove into the river just in time to survive. The burning vehicle followed, crashing down behind him, taking the innocent girl with it, consumed by the flames. Soaked to the bone, Ray climbed up the riverbank only to be met by Trent, who didn't hesitate to point a gun at him. The two men erupted into a brutal fight. During the struggle, Trent fired a shot, then delivered a powerful kick that sent Ray crashing to the ground, bloodied and motionless. As Trent turned to walk away, Ray sprang back to his feet and launched a counterattack, tackling him to the ground and unleashing a flurry of furious punches. Later, Ray reported Trent to CIA superiors, accusing him of murder. The consequences came swiftly. Trent was dismissed, while Ray, despite coming out on top, left the agency burdened with guilt and disappointment. Ray's faith in the agency had completely crumbled. He withdrew from the world of intelligence and disappeared without a trace. 10 years later, in 1994, the two men had taken entirely different paths. Ray was now an explosives expert working covertly as a shadowy assassin who used only bombs. Living off the grid in a heavily fortified, abandoned riverside warehouse, he remained isolated from the world. Ray never allowed clients to contact him directly. Meanwhile, Trent, disgraced and stripped of his rank, had started a new life in Miami. One night, Ray's dormant killer instincts were suddenly stirred when a woman called, saying she wanted to kill 3 men and begged for his help. Ray immediately refused, urging her to turn to the law instead of resorting to violence. The woman insisted that the law was useless because the judges had all been bought off. She knew Ray had the skill to carry out precise explosions without harming innocents, and that he was rumored to be the best. Even so, Ray cautiously declined the job and made it clear he never met with clients. On his way home, a cat silently followed him. When the bus arrived, Ray picked up the cat and brought it with him. The next day, driven by curiosity and professional caution, he used her contact information to run a reverse trace. He followed her to a cemetery and uncovered a tragic story. She was the daughter of a couple who had been murdered by Thomas Leon and his 2 associates when she was a child. Her father had hidden her in a closet to protect her, but through the crack in the door, she witnessed the entire brutal murder. Her mother was tortured to force her father to talk. From that night on, May etched the faces of the 3 killers into her memory, a haunting image she could never forget. May's life had been consumed by her thirst for revenge, and she was determined to act even if it meant doing it alone. Although Ray saw her as unstable and reckless, he knew nothing could stop her. In the end, he agreed to take the job, eliminate the 3 murderers. She revealed to Ray that she was living under a different identity, Adrian Hastings. Meanwhile, At a party hosted by the Lyon family, Trent appeared in his new role as head of security for Joe Leon, a Cuban-American mafia boss. Among the guests was Thomas's son, Joe, who had personally taken part in the murder of May's father years ago. Though he had a new identity and job, Trent's obsession with revenge never faded. For 8 years, he waited quietly in Miami, convinced that Ray would eventually return to the city where he was born, and he was right. Under the alias, Adrienne Hastings, May had successfully infiltrated Thomas Leon's inner circle. May used her striking beauty and cold demeanor to quickly capture Thomas's attention. Arrogant and aggressive, he was soon infatuated with her. He approached her, started a conversation, and invited her to dance, while May pretended to reciprocate, using the opportunity to get closer to her target for revenge. From a distance, Trent silently watched everything unfold. Back home, Ray held the cat in his arms, torn over whether to accept the mission. Though still cautious, he found himself drawn to the woman's voice filled with sorrow, longing, and quiet pain. Meanwhile, May met Thomas again at a bar. After a light kiss and a whispered suggestion that they'd spend the night together, Thomas was suddenly interrupted by an underling who needed him to deal with an urgent matter. May realized that the man who had just shown up was one of the 3 who murdered her parents. Leaving the bar with a look of hatred in her eyes, she struggled to stay calm. Outside, Ray quietly observed everything from a distance. Thomas followed her out, and May pretended to welcome his attention, getting into the car with him. That evening, she appeared by his side again, at a lavish event, where he openly displayed affection, bringing her even closer to her target for revenge. Thomas looked at May with infatuation, completely unaware that she harbored a deep hatred for him, the man who had directly taken part in her parents' murder. Despite her disgust, May continued to fake affection, maintaining her cover and inching closer to her target. From a distance, Ray kept watching, torn between suspicion, concern, and a growing mix of complicated emotions toward her. During the course of his surveillance, Ray gradually realized he had fallen for the fragile yet fiercely determined woman. Rage erupted inside Ray. As for May, she returned home disgusted, so much so that she tore off and discarded the dress she had worn that night. May broke down emotionally, wandering around her apartment in her underwear, trembling from stress and humiliation. In a fit of anger, Ray called her and gave a firm ultimatum. Stay away from the Leon family. Cut all contact with Thomas. And if this was some kind of trap, he wouldn't show mercy. May burst into tears, but they were tears of relief and hope. In the end, Ray decided to help her. He began the mission with deadly precision and cold resolve. The first target was Charlie, one of the men who had murdered May's parents, now an executive overseeing the Leon organization's street operations. Every Monday, Charlie visited the office to review the books. Taking advantage of that routine, Ray slipped into the building, rigged the office door with explosives, and waited patiently. When Charlie opened the door, the bomb detonated, killing him instantly. The next day, Trent, now the head of security for the Leon organization, was called to the scene. The detonator had been completely destroyed in the blast due to direct contact with the C4, leaving no traceable evidence behind. The assassination was clean, efficient, and clearly the work of a professional. After examining the scene, Trent quickly recognized Ray's familiar signature and requested full authority over the case, a request Joe Leon granted, insisting that Thomas stay out of it. Meanwhile, Ray returned home, fed the cat, and trained as usual. Charlie's death sent shockwaves through the organization, while May, overjoyed, called Ray to express her gratitude. Ray refused to meet with May, sensing that something wasn't right, and told her to stay away from the remaining targets. Though May wanted to help, he didn't want her getting further involved. Meanwhile, Joe bribed the Miami police chief to allow Trent, now acting as an explosives expert, to join the bombing investigation under the guise of assisting law enforcement. Trent joined the city's bomb squad and quickly grew suspicious of May, having noticed her unusual behavior at the party. Although his past made his teammates wary and less than welcoming, Trent quickly proved his capabilities, making a strong impression from his very first assignment. Trent assembled a real bomb from random parts right on the table and challenged the bomb squad to disarm it. When they failed, he defused it at the last second, earning the respect of his teammates and solidifying his role in the investigation. Meanwhile, Thomas brought May to his private villa, where he continued to seduce her with affection and indulgence. May pretended to respond obediently to Thomas, but inside she was filled with disgust. After Charlie's gruesome death, Joe Leon's entire organization went into high alert. Staff began checking every detail, even the elevators. One of the three men who had murdered May's parents 28 years earlier, a heavy-set man, became paranoid, constantly darting his eyes around, scanning every shadowy corner. Before getting into the car, he crouched down to inspect underneath, afraid a bomb might be planted. Sure enough, an explosive device was discovered and quickly defused. He then ordered a security guard to drive the car first to ensure it was safe. However, upon entering the building, he accidentally triggered a discreetly hidden explosive device, setting off a powerful blast that launched his body nearly 15 feet into the air. After the deaths of his two accomplices, Trent was furious. He stormed into Thomas's villa, slapped May, and forced her to cooperate in luring Ray out of hiding. 3 lives for one, that was the deal. He gave her an ultimatum. If Ray wasn't found within 24 hours after the next killing, she would be tortured. May secretly agreed to cooperate with Trent in exchange for protection and continued access to Thomas. In return, she promised to help him track down Ray. But when Ray kept refusing to meet, she struggled to lure him out. Trent threatened that if May didn't arrange a meeting with Ray before the third target was killed, she would suffer brutal torture. At that moment, Thomas appeared. The two exchanged a tense glance, but maintained a cold composure. If it weren't for Joe's trust in Trent, Thomas would have eliminated him long ago. Unaware of the recent developments, Ray had set a trap for the final target, Thomas, the third man involved in the murder of May's parents. After studying his routine, Ray snuck into the hotel, swapped the tea for a bomb, and prepared to detonate it remotely. But just as the bomb was about to go off, he saw May enter the room. As the bomb exploded, Ray rushed toward May but was blocked by the crowd. Unable to reach her, he was forced to retreat in silence. In the pouring rain, Ray called May from a phone booth, hoping she was still alive, but there was no answer. Meanwhile, Trent attended Thomas's funeral, where Joe wept in anguish beside his son's casket. Joe blamed Trent for Thomas's death, accusing him of failing to protect his son. In a fit of anger and grief, Joe ordered Trent to hunt down the person responsible for the bombing, the explosives expert, and capture him before Thomas's burial took place. Ray believed May was dead. That night, he quietly entered her apartment, took her necklace and a pair of socks as keepsakes, then disappeared. At the same time, Trent discovered May's disappearance and began planning his next move. Refusing to be used, he staged a fake funeral under her name and leaked the news to the press, hoping to lure Ray out of hiding. When Ray returned to the building, he discovered new messages on the bulletin board, sent by Adrian, the codename they used for secret communication. Sensing something was off, he replied to one of them. That single action led him straight into a trap orchestrated by Trent and the bomb squad. Carefully observing the situation, Ray quickly realized that Trent was the one behind it all. Trent demanded to speak with Ray directly, and the conversation quickly escalated into a heated exchange. Provoked by Ray, Trent lost his temper, calling him a cold-blooded killer and a failed CIA operative. Having once betrayed Ray and lived to tell about it only fueled Trent's resentment, as old wounds and his deep obsession with Ray resurfaced. Ray refused to continue the argument and hung up, leaving Trent seething with rage. Conflicted and overwhelmed with emotion, Ray admitted to himself that he had fallen for May. He went to the funeral to say goodbye, but realized the person in the casket wasn't her. Just as Ray was still processing everything, May walked into the church. Overwhelmed with emotion, he quickly checked her for weapons. Then the two left together and went to a hotel. Meanwhile, Ned and his crew arrived at the funeral. Trent stormed in, pointed a gun at the priest, and forced him to open the casket, only to discover that May was still alive. At the hotel, Ray realized that May had faked her death to shake off Thomas's men. She had pulled it off by slipping her wallet into the bag of a terminally ill patient at the hospital. Once the plan was exposed, Trent mobilized both the criminal underworld and the police to hunt them down. Trent followed the clues to the hotel. Meanwhile, after taking a shower, Ray discovered that May had disappeared, leaving behind only a note admitting she wasn't someone to be trusted. While fleeing, May was intercepted by Trent and his men. With no other choice, she pretended to go along with his plan. Trent, who had planned everything in advance, ordered May's capture and launched an attack on Ray. Knowing she would be eliminated once Ray was dead, May pretended she needed to step outside, quickly grabbed a phone, and contacted Ray, urging him to retreat immediately. Ray believed May had betrayed him. Furious, he hung up and hastily assembled a trap bomb using whatever materials he could find. Moments later, Trent and his men stormed in. Though they moved cautiously to avoid triggering any explosives, the assassins were caught off guard by the complex mechanism Ray had rigged. One of the assassins accidentally triggered the bomb while ending the call, causing him to be blown away. Moments later, the roof cracked open, the floor shook violently, then collapsed into the sea. Amid the chaos, Ray slipped into the kitchen, cut the main power, and clashed with several of Trent's henchmen. Ray took down his opponents with decisive punches, powerful kicks, and even threw one of them into a boiling hot tub. Enraged, Martin ordered the entire hotel to be locked down to capture him. But Ray, a seasoned explosives expert and former special operative, quickly broke through the perimeter and escaped without a hitch. When Ray disappeared again, Trent, fearing Joe's wrath, decided to hand May over to him. During the meeting, May pretended to cooperate and mentioned her parents' names, unexpectedly triggering a buried memory in Wound, the couple he had executed 28 years ago under Joe's orders. Realizing that May's parents were the very people he had once killed, Joe flew into a rage and demanded she explain why she murdered his son. Just as Joe was about to kill May, Trent intervened in time, convincing him that she was still valuable and could help them capture Ray. With Joe's approval, Trent immediately contacted May and ordered her to call Ray and lure him to a meeting. With no other choice, May was forced to call Ray to save her life. Though he was cautious, she managed to convince him that the meeting was urgent. While Trent listened in on the call, Ray agreed to meet at a riverside restaurant. However, through coded language, May secretly warned him that it was a trap and subtly urged him to be ready. Unaware of Ray's plan, Trent deployed a heavily armed team to the dock, turning the area into a tightly controlled zone. However, Ray had anticipated the ambush and set up a web of explosives in advance. Just as Trent's team was about to strike, a massive explosion ripped through the scene. In the chaos, Ray and May escaped by boat and returned to his safe house. Trent analyzed the recording of Ray's call, cross-referencing background noises and traffic routes to trace his hideout. The next morning, he led a full police force to the location. Meanwhile, an energized Ray urged May to leave, reminding her that her true enemy Joe was still alive. Joe Leon was the one who ordered the killing of May's parents, and she was determined to seek revenge so they could rest in peace. Although Ray wanted her to let go of the past, May was resolute in leaving. As they argued, police sirens blared and the area was quickly surrounded. Trent and the police stormed in. Ray activated the self-destruct system, setting off a series of traps that threw the pursuing forces into chaos and caused casualties among Trent's men. As Ray and May prepared to escape through a secret passage, Trent, having anticipated every move, detonated explosives that collapsed the walls, blocking their way. Trent revealed that May's cigarette case contained a bomb he had built himself. When Ray opened it, he discovered a deadly device inside, a mercury bomb sensitive to any movement or environmental change. At that moment, their fate was sealed. With no way out, Trent smugly accused Ray of being weak for always protecting others. But in a moment of carelessness, he fell into his own trap and was killed by his own device. With 30 seconds left before the entire bomb detonated, Ray quickly took the bomb off of May. Ray threw the bomb away and grabbed May, running toward the exit. The explosion went off right behind them, nearly costing them their lives. After the chaos, they managed to escape successfully. In the final scene, Ray sent Joe a necklace rigged with explosives through the mail. When it detonated, Joe was killed. From a nearby car, May heard the explosion and knew it was all over. She got into the car with Ray, and the two of them quietly drove away, leaving behind months filled with revenge and violence. Together, they set off on a new journey, ready to start a different chapter in life, one of peace and free from the shadows of the past.